Hi, it's Maya here in my first non-pre-filmed video after my Japan trip. And it's nice to talk to you again. And hi to all my new watchers. I got a decent amount of new watchers when I was in Japan. I was quite surprised to see that. It might have been because of the BookTube SFF Bubbles and Top 5 Wednesday videos that I've posted recently. But hi, and I hope you continue to like what I do. So I'm going to first go through the books that I'm currently reading, and then I'm going to talk about my Japan trip for a bit. So I am still reading The Martian by Andy Weir. I showed this book to you in my previous currently reading video, and I'm still reading it. I didn't bring this with me on the trip, so it feels like I've been reading this book forever, but actually it's been sitting on the table for 2 weeks unread, and I am just now getting back to it. I only have, I think, exactly the last 100 pages left, so I should be finishing this up soon. I'm also reading The Sorcerer of the Wild Deeps by Kai Ashante Wilson, which is a fantasy novella that you might have seen in my last video, my top 5 science fiction and fantasy books on my TBR, and after that I decided to start reading it. I'm not that far into it yet, and I can't really say what it's about yet, because I've been reading it in bed right before I fall asleep, and I've been a bit jet lagged. I'm finally over it now. I've been reading it in little bits right before I fall asleep, and it hasn't been the optimal way of reading this book. So I hope I can set aside a chunk of time and really get into this and read it through. It's not that long, it's like 200 pages, I think. As to what I'm going to start to read after those, I haven't decided yet, but I do have On the Edge of Gun by Corinne Daufis from the library, and this is a science fiction book, a young adult science fiction book about a girl and her sister and her mother when a comet is about to hit the Earth, and they find out about this generation ship that is going to leave the Earth and go and colonize new worlds. But the main character, Denise, is afraid that she will not be allowed on board because she has autism. And I've heard really great things about this book, so I might be reading this one next. Another one that I might start is The Tropic of Serpents by Mary Brennan. This is the second book in the Lady Trent series, and I picked this up about a week ago from the bookshop. I started reading it, I read the first chapter in the coffee shop right after that, so I might just keep reading this. I really do enjoy them. It's about this dragon naturalist woman who tries to have a scientific career in a sort of Victorian-esque fancy world where women are expected to stay at home. As if that wasn't enough, I also have a couple of books on their way to me from the library. The Hanging Tree by Ben Aronovich, which is the next Peter Grant book, and A Closed and Common Orbit by Beckett Chambers, which is the companion novel to The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet. And I'm also next on the list for After Atlas by Emma Newman, another science fiction book, so that will be coming to me quite soon. So I'll have to add those to my reading schedule as well. And also next week, Spring into Horror readathon starts. I have never taken part in this readathon before. It's a 2-week-long readathon, and the goal is to read at least one scary book during that time, and I thought I might just take part. But I will be doing a separate TBR video for that readathon. So that's all about books for this video. If you're not interested in anything about my Japan trip, you can just leave now. I will see you in my next video, but I'm going to talk a little about my trip now. So we had a pretty long flight. We had to fly first to Copenhagen and then be there for a few hours on the airport, and then fly from Copenhagen to Tokyo to Narita Airport. And it took about 16 hours of traveling to finally get there, so it was a lot. So we were pretty tired on the first day. I was there with my 2 sisters, and we were staying in Akihabara, which is this geeky technology part of town, and I quite liked staying there. So a few of my favorite things while in Japan was that the sakura season was just starting. The blossoms didn't fully blossom until about 2 days before we left, but we still got to see that in Ueno Park, which is very near Akihabara, right next to it. So we could walk there and see Japanese people having picnics under the cherry trees. So that was fun. And a couple of my favorite things were seeing the panda at the Ueno Zoo. I have never seen a panda in real life before. Also, I really enjoyed the conveyor belt sushi place where we went in Shinjuku, I think it was. It was very cheap, it was very delicious, and you get to order everything from this tablet in front of you. You don't have to order from anyone, and you can just keep buying sushi for as long as you want, and it comes to you on this little track on a little tray, and you take it and you send it back from your tablet, and just eat. One of my favorite places was in Harajuku. It was the Tokyo Plaza Omotesando rooftop garden. And it was just this really tall shopping center tower, but at the top there was a little rooftop garden. We went there during the night, so the trees had these little lanterns on them, and you were in this magical garden, but you could also see all the skyscrapers around you lighting up in the darkness, so I really, really liked that place. I'm glad that my little sister knew about it. I had never heard of it. We, of course, also went to the Ghibli Museum, and I picked up a couple of things from there that I'm going to show you now. The camera won't really focus that well, but I bought these two pins. One is a Totoro pin and the other is a cat bus. There was also a cat bus inside the museum. I think it was part of an exhibition that isn't there like regularly, and you could get to sit inside the cat bus, and it was really soft and I didn't want to get up. I also bought these two gorgeous postcards, this very cute little notebook, and some museum cookies, which were not as delicious as I'd hoped, but I still really liked the tin. So that was what I bought from the museum, but my favorite things in the museum, apart from the cat bus, was the Totoro zoetrope that was there. It was really, really detailed and super interesting to watch. It went around and then it slowed down and showed you all the little figurines that went into it. So zoetrope is this thing where these little figurines in different poses of the animation cycle, and when they move fast and the lights start to blink, you see them animate. And my other favorite thing was the movie theater there. So there's a little movie theater inside the museum, and they show these little short films that you can only see in the museums for a limited amount of time. There was this one room where you could see frames from their past animations, and we saw this one animation with Baba Yaga and this egg princess and this man made out of dough. There were no lines in it, so you didn't need to understand Japanese in order to really enjoy it. One thing that was a bit of a letdown in the museum is that they of course didn't really have any information of the paintings or things in the museum in English. It was mostly in pretty much only in Japanese. There were also these lovely little comics that illustrated something important maybe, but I don't know what they were saying. I have studied Japanese, but I have forgotten most of it. One of my favorite things were also the Meiji Shrine garden path, and the fact that we saw these little Mario Kart drivers in Akihabara, like on the day next to last before we left. We saw them in the morning. We were sitting in a coffee shop, and then we looked down, and in the street, like on the driveway, there were these people in these, what do you call them, karting? Little cars. And they were dressed like Mario, Luigi, Wario, Yoshi, and oh god, what's the Koopa? No, what's the main villain called? Well, anyway, you know it. The dinosaur-looking one with the shell. There were about 6 of them, but then when we came back to Akihabara in the evening, there was like this 20 people line of them that were driving around. So I don't know what that was about, but it looked like fun. So I'm just going to show you a couple of things that I bought in Japan. I bought this hilarious vampire musical called Vamp Bamboo Burn. And this is a 3-hour recording of a play that was touring Japan. It has Ikuta Toma as the main character, who is a vampire. He's a guy from the Heian period who is made into a vampire, and then most of this happens in the modern day. I didn't understand a lot of it, like why the Yakuza were in it, but it was still a fun watch. I watched it with my little sister, and even though we didn't understand a lot of what was said, we still got the basic plot. There were aliens in this. Aliens, the Yakuza, and vampires. I also picked up the soundtrack to Persona 5, which my boyfriend is currently playing. It's really interesting because it is set in Shibuya, and we were in Shibuya a lot. And it's weird to see the same places that we saw in real life in the game. I really like the Persona games. I have watched my sister and my boyfriend play them. I haven't played them myself. I have seen most of Persona 3, and then I have seen Persona 4 played through a couple of times now. And now my boyfriend is playing Persona 5. The reason why I haven't played this myself is because I don't think I could get through the amount of running around in dungeons that you need to do. running around in dungeons and fighting, so I much prefer watching them. I do like all the regular day social link stuff, but yeah. And I really enjoy the art style and most of the characters in all of these games. I also picked up these huge keychains of a couple of Ace Attorney characters. Here's Maya and Edgeworth. And I didn't pick up Phoenix Wright, the main character, because I didn't like the way that he looked. But I'd picked up these two, and these are actually games that I've played myself and really like. And then while I was in Ikebukuro, I also picked up a couple of doujinshi. I picked up this thing which combines Persona 3 and 4 characters. It was very well drawn. It actually doesn't have any X-rated content in it. I chose well. I didn't want that right now. This is what it looks like on the inside. Then I also picked up the Three Musketeers doujinshi that I found there. When I saw that there was the Three Musketeers doujinshi, which means fan-made comics or non-professionally made comics, I had to pick them up. The first is 3 + 1 piece equals happiness. The Three Musketeers fan book, which also doesn't have any X-rated content. And then I also had to pick up this one actual / comic, A Voice Which Stops His Hand. And this is a Rochefort X Richelieu fan comic. So for that reason only I had to pick it up. The doujinshi were about like €2 each, so they weren't a very expensive purchase. And by the way, I'm sorry if I'm like burning through, my forehead looks really white when I'm filming this, but for some reason it isn't fixing itself even though I have the auto things on. I also picked up a bunch of Copic markers. I like to color my drawings with these, but they are really expensive in Finland and a lot cheaper in Japan, so I picked this amount of them up. I already own these, and most of these were picked up by my friend from Japan for me, so most of these were cheaper than they are in Finland. And finally, I also picked up this oversized sweat shirt that I'm currently wearing, which says Frost, and I don't know if that is like a brand or anything. I don't care, it's really comfortable. So this has been one long and rambly video. I hope you found at least some of that stuff interesting, and I will leave you with this cutest Neko Atsume toy that I got from the gacha machine. I got about 4 different ones and they are cute and small. Bye now. Oh man, this was really rambly. I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. Look, it's on the royal chair.